Welcome to the latest webcast in Caring.com's Digital Marketing Academy. Our session today is focused on content marketing that helps your senior living community or home care agency transition inquiries into customers. I'm Denise Grob, a marketing director here at Caring.com, and I'm joined by Emily A. Hay of Hey There Social Media, who I'll introduce more in a moment. Before we dive into the presentation, though, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. This is a one-way webcast where only the presenters speak. However, we want you to ask questions, and there's a Q&A module as well as a chat module. We'll have a Q&A toward the end of the presentation. One of the most popular questions we get in these sessions is whether or not the content is being recorded, and we will be providing the slides afterward. The answer is yes. You will have both the recording and the slides sent to you tomorrow morning, and we archive this on our partner blog as well. So yes, you can pay close attention. You don't have to take furious notes. We will provide everything to you afterward. The sponsor of today's free webinar is Caring.com. For those of you who are getting to know us, and as a refresher for our partners, our organization was founded by caregivers for caregivers. Our flagship website, Caring.com, was created and launched in 2007 to equip family caregivers to make better decisions, save time and money, and feel less alone and less stressed in providing senior care to their loved ones. Today, millions of people come to our website to research and get referred to senior living communities and home care agencies. In fact, we have one of the most comprehensive senior care directories on the web, and we're the #1 source of senior care reviews online, with more than 265,000 consumer reviews published and thousands added monthly. In May 2018, we were acquired by Caring Holdings, LLC, a group of investors with over 15 years of digital marketing expertise. This transaction enabled us to continue and expand our services to seniors and their families while remaining a crucial strategic partner for senior living communities and home care agencies nationwide. Our speaker today is Emily A. Hay. She's the founder of Hey There Social Media, a company delivering social media marketing services to a variety of B2C businesses locally and nationally. With a background in marketing and a sales career in corporate America, she paved her own way by using social media as her vehicle back in 2010 when even large companies were just testing the social media waters then. Emily and the team at Hey There Social Media pride themselves on authentically connecting clients with their target audiences on social media because they are members of the audience. Some of their specialties include social media strategy, content creation, community management, online customer service, paid social, and social metrics. They are known for delivering measurable results for their clients, and the experience touches the senior living industry, and they are looking to branch out as well into the senior care industry. Emily A. Hay has contributed regularly to business radio, to NBC Detroit, WDIF Local 4. She is a public speaker on social media marketing and work-life integration, and has contributed to BlogHer, Cranes, Entrepreneur.com, to name just a few of the sources. At Caring.com, I've had the pleasure of working with Emily over the years, starting way back in 2012, when she was helping American House with their online reputation and review responses, and I'm thrilled to have her present in our Digital Marketing Academy today. Here's a high-level overview of what Emily will cover for you. She'll start by providing some contextual information and insights to consider about the leads you're receiving for your services to help drive content that's well matched. Then Emily will challenge you to consider what makes your business unique and how to leverage that in your content. Next, she'll take you through a framework for using content that really resonates with your target audience and is effective for increasing conversions. Then she'll share a very special offer, so don't bounce, stick around for that. You're gonna wanna take advantage of it. And then we're gonna open it up for a Q&A discussion. Okay, without further ado, let me turn over remote control to Emily so she can give you her presentation.
Thank you, Denise. Make sure my video is on here for everyone. All right. Is my video on?
Let's see. Sorry. I think you're good to move forward.
Okay. Okay, if it's possible to have video or no video?
It's enabled. I would go ahead and move forward.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you, Denise, for such a lovely, lovely intro. It's so nice to be sitting here with you virtually. And just like Denise teed up, today is all about that content marketing. And I look at today as our chance to shake up our snow globe of content marketing. And of course, in the spirit of visuals, I know it's spring where I live, so to think about that snow globe of really shaking it up and really rebooting your content marketing. So as you all saw in the description of the webinar, I feel very firmly that content marketing done right isn't simply posting about National Donut Day. So it's also not about posting whatever topic your competitor has covered. Content marketing done right will certainly generate more leads, greater awareness, and it will convert inquiries into customers. So in order to do this, this is your invitation to think differently. I want you to know this is not about simply coming up with the new idea of hashtag National Hug Your. So again, today, please consider it an invitation to shake up that snow globe, reboot your ideas, and really think differently. So as for everything we're covering today, we're going to talk through the points that Denise covered so that way you feel like we're addressing some of your biggest content marketing challenges. So here we go, everyone. Let's take a closer look at your leads. So what is a lead? Going back to a baseline here, make sure I'm clicking here. With the first slide, can everyone, okay, what is, yeah, perfect. So again, baseline, what is a lead? A lead is someone with an interest in what you're selling. So plain and simply, this is all about people that want to buy from you at some point, but it's not just enough to generate those folks, generate those interests. You have to nurture and warm up those leads. And I appreciate that's not a new concept to anyone in marketing and senior living. So let me jump in with a quick pop quiz and really just to ask you all, what do you think would be more valuable? Would it be to have 25 cold leads, or would it possibly be to have 5 warm leads? Now, it's a bit of a rhetorical question, and I also want to acknowledge this is a very subjective question because you might think, well, 25 cold leads is an opportunity to turn into 25 customers. But if you might think today, you know, I might work a little smarter, not harder. And if I'm given 5 warm leads, I'm going to feel confident enough in my content marketing that I can convert all 5 out of 5. So nurturing those leads, it absolutely happens when your prospects see your Facebook posts, when they see your caring profile has reviews on it. There are multiple touch points for where your content marketing is going to make an impact of turning that inquiry into a lead. So let's jump ahead here. And I'm going to talk to you about, let me go to the next slide, please.
Sorry about that. Let's bring that back. There we go.
Thank you, thank you.
And let's try again with the remote control.
Okay. It might take us a quick second for that all to connect. I don't know if good old internet challenges. Okay, let's see if I can control this to get you back to my slide.
You're good.
Okay. All right, so we're talking about who your lead is, everyone. This is, of course, a very common profile, an avatar of one particular type of customer. I appreciate that you also may have seniors themselves that are doing the research of where they might choose to live. But today, for the purpose of the webinar, we'll look at one prospect, and that's Mary. And this profile is something that I think is just great. It's really robust. It's also a very evergreen profile of a perfect lead in this business. So I ask you, does Mary apply to your business, to your ideal prospect in every single way? So let's peel back some layers there. Let's make some additional considerations. If I could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so back to Mary, right? You need to think about in every way, right? Does she apply to your business? So if you want to strengthen content marketing, you can ask yourself, what's her life like today? Like I said, those previous descriptions of her are fantastic and evergreen. But when you stop and say, what's her life like today, right now, one of the highest replies, the highest, most frequently said replies you'll hear is that she's busy and stressed. This might be the case for the majority of her life, but especially right now, navigating a pandemic really cranks up that intensity. Just how busy, just how stressed Mary might be. And we know that Mary probably has her own children, being that sandwich generation. And it's important to think too, though, that she might have already spent more of her time and effort and energy into dealing with an aging loved one, starting to look into places for her aging loved one to live because her children didn't need her as much. But her life got completely upended with the pandemic. And we're finding that women with tweens, teens, college children are even having just a multitude of needs that they're leaning back on their parents for. And so again, she has had more demands put on her life probably than ever before from a personal standpoint. Professionally, we know that Mary is highly educated and that she is likely a working woman. And we know that over 2 million women have left the workforce since the pandemic began. So again, going back to she's feeling pressure like never before. So I ask, how can you, how can your community, how can your agency help her? And it's about helping her like a friend would help her. And when I think about how a friend would help her, I would think about reviews that in this particular slide, there are some screenshots of reviews that speak to her as if she were having coffee with a friend, maybe a virtual coffee today. But when one of these particular reviews talks about the caregivers that they used for their mom and that those caregivers were loving and they took care of her and mom thrived, that is exactly how a friend would speak to me. So even though I don't know this person, this review speaks to my soul. And that friend just saved me time by probably cutting out 5 different places to research. I might just go down to 2, this one being included because of the review. Another thing, when you think about how does a friend reduce your anxiety? Well, a friend would be the kind of person that leaves Mary feeling, gosh, now I have one less thing to worry about. I have one less thing I'm stressed or anxious about. So when a friend reduces anxiety, they take the pressure off of her. And it's important to acknowledge and reduce her worry. And it's a huge opportunity, as I said, for your reviews, like anything on caring, for people to read about your community or agency and immediately feel that a friend is helping reduce her anxiety. Can I have the next slide, please? Let me see, it looks like, am I allowed to? Okay. Let me go back one more, please. Thanks, everyone. Sorry for the tech click here. All right. So some additional considerations. I want you to think deeper. And if you want to talk about content that moves those inquiries to customers, think about Mary's personality. Think about aspects of her thoughts, her feelings, her behaviors. This is more than just, does she like donuts? And can we do a post about National Donut Day? This is something too, when you think about Mary's personality, she is smart. And while she uses logic to make a lot of important decisions, she absolutely relies on intuition and feelings. And that emotional intelligence, it really comes forward when she's evaluating prospective communities and agencies. This in particular, the emotional touch points, can really take content that's good and bring it up to a great level, because it, again, warms up your lead. It turns her into looking at your business as more of a person than just a business. So logically, and right here, with the more ways you can connect with her, you're going to make yourself more memorable to her. The more you build her trust, she will not think of you as a business. She'll think of you as a trusted partner. It also shows that you're listening to her and what actually matters to her. You'll also get more attention. So we always say, stop the scroll. Anything you can do to get that person to stop the scroll. You're getting more attention. You're getting more meaningful attention of hers. And so clearly those steps will allow your content to bring her closer to buying from you. All right. Might be on a quick delay here. Thank you. Okay, so this is a lovely customer inquiry flowchart. And I love visuals, just to see that each one of these steps, call, contact, visit scheduled, visit completed, agreement, you can mine each of those steps for content ideas. So think about what content can you provide her to literally go from one to the next. There's multiple topics to cover in each, and not to get greedy, but you might come up with content that can take her past a step, or at least can move her to the next step quicker than without certain content. So I like to think of your content as being a resource to Mary, not another commercial about your business. If she's called you, maybe she's made that first initial contact, but think of social media content or online reviews or other content touch points that would really encourage her to want to have a deeper conversation. If she has scheduled the tour, but may potentially still back out because we all know that life happens, what content could you share that would really ensure she doesn't miss that tour for the world? And that can, again, speak to what are things that you cover on the tour that will directly answer her fears, anxieties, questions, reduce her stress. Okay, head to the next slide, please. This next slide is a sample contact cadence. So I love this system. It pans out a week for you. It's obviously important to nurture leads by staying persistent with your touch points. And what I thought was really interesting, it was Peter Droubet that talked about the money is in the later contacts. So oftentimes competitors will give up after the first call or touch point or two. And the deeper you stay connected with that lead and the longer you stay connected, it's proven that that's where the money also shows. So if you look at this contact cadence, I want you to think of your content marketing as following a similar cadence. So think about it as a system that's working for you in the background, and it really shows that you understand your customers' needs. And one of my favorite mottos, you're working smarter, not harder. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so some formats of content. Blogs, anything that's a how-to guide, checklist, those all are beautiful blog topics. Social media posts, directory reviews, any testimonial, videos, infographics. These, again, are some of the formats of content that we talked about, how content is your chance for your business to nurture your leads. And so, like I said, these are simply the formats. These are the touch points that you have an opportunity to leverage blog posts to help Mary think differently, through a social media post, through a meme, or maybe something more elaborate like an infographic that just helps her wrap her head around all of the steps of her considerations and helps her move from one step to the next. Every one of these, like I said, is a chance to connect. So being crystal clear, for sure, remember this, that every time you keep this on top of mind and you're crystal clear about whom you're talking to and what matters to her, it really does make content creation much more easy, because then you're just constantly aware of who and what's important to her. Okay, and now we're going to jump to the second section. So very intentional that I had Mary or our prospect as our first section. Let's focus on you. This section is all about you, and that's your business, your community, your agency. So with this, we're often asked, what makes you different? So talking about you, people will in marketing will constantly say, well, what makes your business unique? How do you stand out among the crowd? How do you avoid the sea of sameness? Well, it's a great question, but I find from our work that it's the answers that are just not good enough. They're good. You can come up with good ways that you're unique and different, but they're just not good enough. So let's talk about that. All right, our next slide here, you might go right to features, activities, culture, price, floor plans. These are often referred to as your unique selling propositions, your USPs. It's very logical to go right to, wow, what makes us different? Why would someone choose us feature-wise, culture-wise? Why would they choose us over a competitor? And while they're absolutely worth listing, today in the spirit of inviting you to think differently and think a little deeper, I want you to consider your values, the company's values. So values, again, being basic and fundamental beliefs that guide or motivate attitudes or actions. On our next slide here, I'm going to talk about some more values of your actual business. So think about the value of your business as not just what your business does. And the next layer is not just about how your business does what it does, how it delivers services. There is a very deep question here that is really worth bringing to a whole team discussion. And it's about why you do what you do, why the business does what it does, not just what it does or how it offers it or how it delivers it, but why. And there are plenty of marketing talks out there on the web about finding your why. There's literally a TED Talk even, a gentleman named Simon Sinek. He has a famous TED Talk called Finding Your Why. And I love it. I'm inspired by it every time I see it. And it literally applies to any business or industry. So it's really important, again, to think, well, no wonder we're struggling with content ideas. We're not going deep enough. So these are a few example values that your business might say, okay, we absolutely embody honesty. We exhibit trustworthiness. Our value is to spread positivity, joy even, spreading joy. So your content needs to align with those values. And let's look at the embodying honesty. So if you're, sorry, same slide there, Denise. If you embody honesty, then one of your blog posts might be something like 3 challenges of moving a loved one into a senior living community and how to overcome them. I drill down to that as honesty because you're not making a person think that it's a small task. You're saying 3 challenges. And let's be honest, you might pick the 3 biggest challenges, but then you're there for them to say, here are the solutions on how to overcome those challenges. Trustworthiness, an example here would just be that if your reviews are constantly talking about how amazing your staff is, then let those reviews speak for themselves. Use those reviews to spotlight and let other people see you walk the walk, just how trustworthy your business is, because your reviews show that your staff is there no matter what. And that alone will make someone see that this business really is trustworthy. They walk that walk. Spreading positivity, if that's something that your business is really valuing, then make sure that your posts leave people feeling better, happier, more positive than before they saw it. Again, stop the scroll. What is something that's going to get them out of that mindless, meh, dull feeling and actually feel better? So that's a great way to think of this aligns with our value to spread positivity. Okay, our next slide, I will cover a few additional considerations here. So what's the story of your brand? What are the founder's story? How did the business start? How do you help people every day? And again, not just with activities and amenities, but really getting deeper into how are you changing the world? Thinking about, there's a business I came across, it was a good example of it having a motto or a theme to sum up your company's work. And it's a business called Super Coffee, and their whole theme is positive energy. So a nice play on words, right? It's a coffee company, so caffeine, energy, but they're not just about focusing on selling coffee. Their social content makes people feel positive and more energized than before they read it, just like their coffee would. Another thing here, I want you to think that knowing who you are, you being your business, it will absolutely help you generate memorable awareness. So we spent the whole first section going through Mary. Who are you? If your business were a person, who would you be? What would your name be? What's your life like? You can make your own avatar. And again, that's a really useful tool to get your whole team on board and crystal clear about who your business is out in the marketplace. The next thing, when you establish a voice, so this is a bit of a nuance, and we also hear things like your business must have a voice, but that voice is so important to your content feeling consistent. And the best example I can give you is, wouldn't it be the weirdest thing ever if every party you showed up at, you were a different personality? You spoke a different way, you had a different attitude, a different tone. People wouldn't know who you were. And if friends started to talk, they'd say, oh, do you know so-and-so? Well, tell me more about him or her. That doesn't sound like him. So again, it's crazy. You can't be a different version of yourself in real life. So same with your content marketing. In order for your content marketing to move inquiries into customers, I want you to, again, think about being consistent so Mary gets to know you and so she trusts you. And then being consistent, repetition will create that awareness. Okay, and now, believe it or not, we are on to our third section, a framework here. So this is our framework for some new ideas. We talked about Mary, who your prospect is, what her life is like, definitely dove a little bit into your actual business and making your business a person. People connect with people. People don't connect with brands. And now these are some more tactical starters for content marketing. So first of all, I want you to consider social and content marketing are like a superhighway. And I make that analogy because with a superhighway, people are merging on and off all the time. Never stops. People don't all merge on from the same exit, on ramp. They don't get off at the same time. It's just constantly moving. And that to me is very different from a book. And when you come up with your content marketing, that's going to constantly warm up cold leads and take warm leads into that customer phase, then it's important to know that not everyone's on the same page. And if you think of your content as being a book with a beginning, middle, or end, you are very quickly going to miss an opportunity to speak to some of those people at the very beginning phase. And you really only have that first time to make that first impression, right? You don't, what do they say? You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So I encourage you, because you're all professionals and you live and breathe this space, that it's really important to not assume everyone knows what you know. And I'm sure you know that, but really stop and challenge yourself. Am I just kind of assuming people know things? I bet there's a lot of content opportunity that when you go, well, wait a minute, what do I mean by this? Or if I was completely brand new to this research phase for an aging loved one, what would my concerns and fears be? So again, making sure that you are giving your business the opportunity for the best first impression and looking at social media as that highway, not a book with a beginning and an end. Okay, our next slide here. Did you guys know, I think this is so fun, businesses out in Silicon Valley, tech startups, heck, Shark Tank, when you come up with businesses that have an idea that need to sell it to the world, they usually have what's called a pitch deck. And the pitch deck, they are trained to use these pitch decks to speak to a fifth grader. And that's not meant to be an insult. It's more to guide the communication to be clear, not clever. It's so easy when you are in the industry to know ins and outs. I mean, you guys have PhD level knowledge here. And if you don't stop and think, well, would this make sense to a fifth grader? Or are we maybe overcorrecting and trying to be so clever that we're no longer clear? Like we're confusing people now. That's where you can get tripped up in your content marketing and you can feel like it's not as effective as it could be. Using plain speak. I mean, social media is conversational in nature. You can use the actual way that people explain things. Keep in mind the voice that we talked about defining that for your community. Is your voice cheerful? Are you bubbly? Are you friendly? To me, there is a difference between cheerful and bubbly, and there's an even bigger difference between courteous and bubbly. So being professionally personal, I think, is the best way to look at this. I just talked about using plain speak and the way that people actually say things. Well, we all know that there's millions of nuances on social media and hashtags and different phrases and just, again, a whole lexicon on social media. But if you think about being professionally personal, then it ensures that your whole business maintains a high standard of communication wherever you speak to those prospective customers, anywhere online, email marketing, anything that's your content. Okay, next, I'm going to go through some more content brainstorming. All right, when it's time to do that brainstorm, keeping Mary on top of mind. Yes, we talked a lot about Mary, but again, remind yourself, I'll say it again for the people in the back, that if you keep Mary on top of mind, it's going to make so many parts of this exercise easier. And get really obsessed with knowing what Mary's life is like. Constantly check and see, well, what's her life like today? And that was the whole pandemic discussion. Mary's evergreen life is very different than what it is today. With Mary's mindset, that's another deeper layer. With her mindset, you want to think about her assumptions, methods, and notions. And I think this is powerful because when you focus on her mindset, you're not necessarily focusing on her age or content that only speaks to one particular age. I mean, I know there's a variety of ages in the sandwich generation, but there are certainly leads that may start earlier than others. And again, going to mindset will keep you focused on your target audience. So another thing with assumptions and notions, just let that sit for a second. We all have assumptions and notions. And if your business can help her unpack, unlearn, and almost relearn some of those assumptions she's made, she's going to trust you and she's going to feel empowered by the information that you've given her. While a commercial about your business might only make her aware of your business's name, but it hasn't helped her or addressed her assumptions of your business or her notions. And quite honestly, that's a good opportunity for you to be able to address those particular parts of her mindset. FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I think prospects have this in the best of times. Again, women are way overworked today, and I'm focusing deeply on women here. But this news clip here, I did something with our local NBC station in Detroit that was really just acknowledging how overworked women are, variety of ages, caregivers, women that are just being taxed at every angle to do much more. And so to me, I would truly value any business that helps me take something off my plate. So helping women, acknowledge that they're in survival mode and they might just be reacting to whatever is immediately in front of them. And if you, again, give her something that helps her proactively plan, maybe it's a post that gets her thinking about if you feel like you're 12 months out from this decision. She might quickly learn she's much closer than 12 months out. But again, to me, that just says you are helping her be, oh, I'm being proactive. I'm not worried about something that happened yesterday. Removing the guilt. This is huge for women. You hear about mom guilt and just guilt, like never being enough for your family, never being enough as a daughter, as a mother. And again, I hold a very close spot in my heart for brands and businesses that start to feel like an ally, like a friend, a partner to help me remove the guilt that we put on ourselves. A little bit more on that on this next slide here.
Emily, before we move on, I just wanted to, if you don't mind, chime in a little bit. One tip for folks who are partners with Caring for these insights you're sharing is always keep Mary top of mind. The referrals we send to senior living communities and home care agencies have clues about Mary, quote unquote Mary. So what their particular situation is, what they're most concerned about. So you could use all of these insights that Emily is sharing and match it specifically to that referral or that lead's quote unquote Mary, right? So as another idea for the brainstorming.
I appreciate that. And again, if my job is to come up with those topics, Karen just made my life easier. So thank you for that, Denise. Okay, so this chart here, this again, as I think about how content makes her feel, this is from a report that reflected attitudes towards a living situation. And to see the first two, they're all important, but the first two stand out to me, of course. I'm pleased my loved one is safe and well cared for. So at night I can sleep. I am pleased knowing that my loved one is safe and well cared for. Forget so many other features. They're important, but if I can only pick one thing, the survey says, I'm pleased that my loved one is safe and well cared for. And if you speak to that concern of hers, then clearly that resonates. The guilt we talked about, feeling sad or guilty that I cannot care for my loved one myself. We could have a whole webinar about how women in general, just like I said, tend to be made to feel that we're just not enough. So it's what I said about your business helping relieve that sense of guilt, even if it's completely unfounded. Another thing here you hear the phrase, people might not remember exactly what you said, but they will remember how it made them feel. So if you have a blog post that makes your prospect or your lead feel like they're really capable, they're going to pass that blog post on. They're going to bookmark it. Heck, they'll print it out if they feel very capable. But I will not bookmark, print out, or share an article that makes me feel inadequate. And I'm certainly not saying that your business would ever want to make a lead feel inadequate, but it just goes back to the motivation behind how you are laying out content ideas and how you choose to address various topics. Are you helping your lead feel cared for? Does she feel challenged? Does she feel helped, guilty, or empowered? It's the difference between what does she do? Does that content stay in her mind? Does she save it and refer back to it? Okay, the next slide here goes through some even more ideas. Let's talk about the state of the world right now. So I look at behavioral trends when I think about content marketing done right. And with more time isolated, not a new concept to anyone here at this point, but really with lists, if you can give people directions on what to do with some of that isolated time, that's hugely popular online right now. Hugely popular content to get people to open a newsletter or to stop the scroll and maybe bookmark a Facebook post or save something. With how to spend the time in meaningful ways with aging loved ones, I personally, that speaks to my soul. I have out-of-state parents, and when I make a phone call to my dad, I literally wonder at times, what should I talk about? Like, how can I make this a very meaningful conversation to him? Does he want to hear more about my life? Like, does he want to hear that I went to the grocery and did a webinar today? Or would it be better if I asked him questions? So again, some of this might seem, well, you just talk to the person and that dictates how you should use your time in meaningful ways. But I'm serious, we have a little bit more time on our hands today. And if you can help people think of ways to spend time that's meaningful with their aging loved ones, you took some of that worry and anxiety off my plate. How can you help people better enjoy the time with less activity? So making the most out of, there might be less in-person events, there might be less outings, there's less places to go, but just giving, again, Mary some ideas, even a senior that is researching this for themselves, ways that they can still enjoy time with less scheduled activities. Reducing and removing loneliness, it's a pretty evergreen topic, but man, is it relevant right now. So thinking again about if you have someone that's the pain point, like, oh, I worry about dad, he's all alone, it must be so lonely, then remove my anxiety by talking about things that he could be doing at your community. And I know you probably already do that, but again, it's just showing how hyper relevant that is right now to this time of the pandemic. So some conversational trends and themes that you see on social media and with content marketing strategies, people right now are definitely embracing the silver linings. You can air your grievances, you can talk about your stressful day and everything you're experiencing, but usually people online are kind of wrapping up with, but the silver lining is, and even if you tell me your personal Facebook friends aren't that way, you can at least think of from the business standpoint, you want the business to be the one finding some silver linings. Giving one another grace, courtesy, goodwill, patience even. We're in this together, this too shall pass. A lot of those themes are everywhere on social media, and again, hyper relevant to the time that we're in today. We do see from a content marketing standpoint that nostalgia posts perform well. So I'll give you an example. It's not quite a senior living related, but a medical practice that offers certain types of procedures, routine cancer screenings. And this particular practice kind of wanted to take the taboo discussion of scheduling certain procedures off the table. So with our content marketing with them, we started doing visual posts that had, maybe someone with really big bangs from the 80s. And we'd say, if your hair ever looked like this, you might be due for a colonoscopy, or again, that medical procedure that immediately makes that person go, gosh, yep, that's me. And it makes them remember the particular practice. Had to go right there with an example with you all. Okay, so on the next slide here, I've got some final considerations. Remember, this is not new, luckily. Social media has always, in a way, acted as a focus group. So you can ask people what their top concern is, what their objections are, what their fears are when moving into senior living or in hiring a home care agency. I'll be honest, you might be scared to death of the answers that come from that, but I'm telling you, when you find that out, that intel can inspire and drive so much content for your business, because each objection needs handled differently and needs explained in a number of ways, a number of times. So as you can see, it's not just about coming up with hashtag National Donut Day. Using insight from your caring reviews to drive content topics. So this, if you never had a focus group, if you never asked a question on social media, you could use your caring reviews to absolutely have you see, gosh, we often hear that people want to know more about this topic. Or from our experience, many children of an aging loved one often wonder. So again, those caring reviews, of course, are giving you, they're closing a feedback loop for you to improve the day-to-day operations of your business, or maybe make a tweak or validate your marketing collateral. But when you're talking about your content marketing that moves people from inquiry to customer, it's very inviting and inclusive to say, hey, we often hear this, because sometimes prospects don't know what they don't know, and they might not have any opportunity to say, well, I don't even know what my questions are. So if you do that for them, your caring reviews are a tremendous asset for that.
I can give you some examples, Emily, there for our attendees. So for instance, on the senior living side, the reviews that really stand out is when they go into detail on the amazing food. Food is very popular in the senior living community. So if you have a 5-star chef or something unique, back to what Emily was saying about what makes you different, that is something that comes up a lot in reviews. So that would be an example of a clue on the kind of things that they're looking for. And on the home care side, becoming a member of the family. So back to what Emily was saying about a friend, right? Your agency serving as a friend to the senior and the family. This comes up a lot in the caring reviews. So I wholeheartedly agree with Emily's recommendation to read those reviews for clues, not only to what you're doing right, but what can help persuade those leads to choose your business over others.
Perfectly said, Denise. Thank you so much. Some formats of content too, you think of myth busting, true or false, did you know, DYK, sometimes did you know? And again, I think one of the most enlightening things that I've learned recently was just about senior living increasing that quality of life. Maybe I was harboring some guilt there, but thinking about, okay, that immediately is not going to make me feel guilty. It's going to make me feel excited about this decision to help my dad move one particular place or another. So, you know, now I'll schedule that tour because I didn't realize that his quality of life would increase. Okay, so again, as I wrap up, really, I just want you to know that this, I've said it about 30 times throughout the presentation, that it's content that moves someone from one step to another. If you keep that litmus test in your head and stay focused on who you're talking to and who you are in the marketplace and who the values are of your business as a person, then really it's going to make you memorable, and it's going to give your prospects a good feeling. Not only will they decide to work with you themselves, they'll spread the word. So thanks.
That's great. Now, before we go into the offer, there's one more nuts and bolts I want to let people know about. And a few years ago, I put together some content kits because one of the items that we heard from folks was so busy with day-to-day operations, don't have time to think of creative ideas. Emily just gave you a bunch, but there's even more that we've put together for you, and I'll circulate those after the webinar. It's Content Made Simple. They are month by month topic ideas that you could use Emily's guidance. So it's a framework, you know, observations, a monthly observation. So Cancer Awareness Month might be the frame, and then use Emily's tips to create stellar content within that topic. All right, and then hit drum roll for the great offer. Here we go. Take it away, Emily.
Thank you. So today, my limited offer is the first 5 senior living and or home care agencies that would like to request what I'm calling a brain trust review. You're going to get it. You're going to get a brain trust review. And I call it a brain trust because I'm here in drizzly Michigan today, but I have a team of social media experts across the country, and we will all huddle up and have a good strategy session about your business. So it's something that we want to get out to you. We only have the bandwidth right now to do this for 5 businesses. So you can send me an email, you can send me a text, you can leave me a voicemail, you can even fill out a short contact form on our website, and that link is there. You can mention Brain Trust if that helps. Otherwise, I'm going with the first 5 that I get, and I will follow up with you. But by all means, we are certainly not limited to only helping businesses that take us up on the Brain Trust offer. That's really how we work. We have a whole wide network of people that, if you appreciate these ideas that we covered, but you say, not for us to do on our own, that's where we can step in and help you.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I hope people rush to the text or email to be one of the first 5 to take you up on that. And that would be customized to their business with Emily's team of social media experts. Really great. Thank you so much. Let's jump to questions. We got actually a really good one about making connections in social media with leads. So, and I think what they mean is connecting as friends or messaging. When is the appropriate time? Is it after they've had some initial contact outside of social media, or is it okay to make a connection with a prospect on social media without any other, like a cold contact? Is that obtrusive or not? What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's 2 ways to look at this. One would be, are you acting on social media as the business, or are you perhaps, you know, the lead sales person, professional, and are you looking to use, say, your personal LinkedIn to connect with a prospect on LinkedIn? I think there's absolutely room for both. There are a couple of limitations. Let's talk about the business. So a limitation, let's say Facebook, for example, the page can't necessarily go and message a person. But if you have in some of your calls to action that you would like for people to message the page, then you're now giving yourself a whole stream of being able to communicate with that person. So if you, again, you have to be prepared to man that inbox, to reply to messages. This is not just send them into your inbox and then have the autoresponder. But I encourage you that people are using Messenger and responding to Messenger notes faster than many other platforms. So if you want to think about your business, putting a social media post out there with the call to action, message us today, and you're ready to engage in a conversation with them there, business is absolutely being closed in a DM or a direct message format. So I think that's one way to go about it. You could really experiment with using your inbox. As a professional, this is a very subjective question, but I would say that if I am reaching out to a community or an agency and I know I'm supposed to contact Drew and I've left Drew a message, and instead of a voicemail back or a call, Drew sends me, he finds me on LinkedIn and sends me a connection request, I find that very appropriate. I find that professionally personal. I find that that's a nice way for, let's say, Drew, to be able to say, you know, I got your voicemail. Is now a good time to chat? Would you like to schedule a call? In fact, I actually appreciate that because you're meeting me where I am. You know, I might not have thought about, oh, I've got to check that voicemail or I still have to schedule that call with him. But if he connects with me on LinkedIn, the worst case is that I just choose to not connect with him. So I think that's a good approach as well.
That's great. And if you don't mind, I'd like to add a few comments here too.
Please.
So I get hit up every week with sales messages on LinkedIn, on email, on Facebook, and I can tell you who stands out and who gets ignored. It is the people, the sales reps who send me messages when I've never asked for help, who come at me with, we're this, we're X, we're Y, and they don't come at me with what Emily recommended of, I understand the challenges you're dealing with, and I would love to talk to you about how I can help you get more done faster, smarter, whatever it is, right? So when they come at me with, hi, I'm Joe, you need to talk to me because I have the greatest X, Y, or Z, I don't know Joe. I didn't ask Joe to contact me. Joe goes into the spam folder. When he contacts me with information that actually helps me, all the things Emily was talking about, when he puts me first and how he approaches me and how he can help solve challenges for me, then Joe doesn't go to the spam folder and it has an opportunity to close my business. So that's just one, apply the insights that Emily is saying. It's not just about making that contact, it's how you make that contact.
Perfect. Thank you for that context.
All right. And then, so this is another great question. As an independent living community, if leads are coming in a little slower or they're moving slower to convert, what are some ideas of content that you would suggest for social media to keep them engaged, to want them to come back to the community? So if they're not immediately interested in moving forward, or they're not responding, like let's say they submitted an inquiry and they're not responding to the community's follow-up, what are some ideas that the community could do in social media to keep them on the hook, if you will, or engaged and interested?
Well, you can really experiment with new topics, right? I mean, again, this has been a reflection exercise, and maybe going back to the basics of saying, what have we posted about before that might not be resonating with that person? It's fair. You can't really say that that's the only reason that person isn't getting back in touch with you. But again, you can look at maybe we haven't stood out enough to that person. Maybe we haven't been compelling enough to, again, her needs and her life right then. So I would use a time that might feel a little slower with leads either coming in or converting as a good chance for you to really step back and build some content that you would want that person to know. An example I would give would be maybe come up with 5 blog posts that you would like to send to that prospect if they did get back to you. Like if you contact them, you're not hearing back. If you had a chance to have a conversation with them, but they're not scheduling that call, then what's a blog post that, like I said, you could get the whole story out. You could address some topics that you might send to that person and say, here are a few things that we find people are asking us about lately. I would absolutely want to read that email, even if I don't take the person up on the offer to have a phone call. So it's a little bit of a two-phased approach. The first thing is look back at the content you have been creating, and again, give yourself a chance to reboot and try some different topics. And then the next part of it would be, hey, if you have your head down for a little bit to create some new content, I always like to think of what would I want to tell a prospect? And then that'll give me a topic that I can send off to them, and hope that I get the chance to say it to them in person.
That's a great suggestion. I would also add that to consider crowdsourcing. So other people just like them, what are they talking about? So that was one of the strategies we used for caring for building our Facebook following early on years ago. Still would work today, is go follow other communities' pages, see what people are talking about. Go follow senior groups, see what they're talking about. You'd be surprised the wealth of ideas you're going to find there. Talk to your existing residents. What caused them to choose your community? Create a top 5 list, the top 5 reasons our residents love living here, as an idea, right? So what Emily was talking about of the reflection period, that could be one of your blog posts, but I would also recommend you crowdsource from what the target audience is already talking about and interested in.
I love that. Thank you so much, Denise.
Okay, great. So here's an interesting question about platform, and we could take a couple more questions and then we need to wrap up. But in terms of social media and the best places for reaching the prospects, are you still finding Craigslist as relevant?
So, I mean, Denise, do you want to start with your answer to that to give me some context?
Yes, so I would, what we have found at Caring is that the sites that are and also it's not just Caring, there's other like American, Pew Internet, American Research on where the 55 plus audience is engaging in social media. There was just a recent study released as well on the most popular social media platforms. Craigslist did not make the list. I hear from a lot of middle-aged women and men about some suspicion of sites like that where there's not a lot of profile information about the person. Mary is suspect just by her nature. I believe that was on that slide. So you need some social proof and trust for her to engage on that platform, and she finds more information on Facebook. She finds more information on YouTube, Pinterest, more so than Craigslist, I have found. Would you agree, Emily?
I would. Again, I'm very siloed in social media, so I appreciate that. Would is Craigslist part of under that umbrella? Maybe not, but I very much appreciate meeting people where they are. And even though I value a website, I feel your Facebook page is a very strong presence to invest your time and energy in, because you need to meet people where they are. You actually just triggered something too, Denise, that don't worry if you hear those sweeping statements like no one's on Facebook anymore, or everyone's giving Facebook a break right now. Again, data doesn't align with that. So even though there could be an outlier opportunity, like staying on Craigslist, or if there's another, as you said, site, I really still think, you know what, if we have X amount of effort and resources, let's put it in something like a Facebook page, or again, your blog. I know it's different than having a listing on Craigslist, but clearly I'm a huge proponent for the importance of reviews. And again, finite resources and time, make sure your caring profile is amazing and that you're just utilizing your time, even though you might have an outlier opportunity once or twice on a Craigslist.
And that's a really good point. Ask the platform, who is their audience? Get some demographics on that audience on reach and target audience. Are they in the age demographic that's even in the market for senior living or senior care? So that's super important. Thank you, Emily. I think we've covered all of the questions at this time. I want to go ahead, but if anyone has any questions afterward, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will circulate Hey There Social Media's contact information. I want to go ahead and summarize some of the key points we've covered. I want to leave you, if you don't remember anything else that we've covered, remember these things. Content marketing done right really does help the prospect move along the sales cycle from inquiry to customer. You need to keep that prospect, their needs, their concerns, their mindset, all the things Emily brought to bear about Mary Keep that top of mind every time with every type of content you plan. Use those referrals from caring, those clues in those referrals about their life to trigger which in your content library is a best match for their needs. Be crystal clear who you are as a business in order to make your content memorable. Love the suggestions about identifying your values, articulating your values, and being consistent in that brand identity. And then remember, reviews from other consumers are a critical content asset. So much. Both Emily was great to show you can mine them for content ideas, but you can also use them to prove your value to the prospect. Let others do the talking for you. Is there anything else that you would add to this summary, Emily?
No, thank you for the opportunity to do so. But no, thank you so much, Denise.
Okay, great. So here's how to reach caring.com. We really value your feedback. We talked a lot about reviews. We have a whole reviews program. Here's how to reach that team, phone number, email. I'm one of the original leaders of the reviews program, so I have lots of knowledge I'm happy to share with you. We value your feedback. We want to hear what you loved best about this webinar, what you'd suggest for future webinars. We're going to prompt you with the survey right after this, right after I close this session. I hope you'll take a few moments, just a few questions to answer that. There's also an opportunity to opt in to be contacted by Hey There Social Media after the session, particularly if you have any more questions you didn't feel comfortable asking in front of the group. We really appreciate Emily taking time out of her practice to come share some of these insights with you. And I hope that you found it valuable, and we look forward to working with you further. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.